The next book I read is my 5-star, my Baby Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I had been dying to read her. I hadn't got a chance. My expectations were super high for this because the concept of it was just adorable. Not only did it live up to the hype, I mean, it blew me out of the water. I could not put this thing down. I really, really enjoyed it. You have the story of Cather, who is going into her freshman year. She has an anxiety issue, so you can imagine that the new setting and new people, discovering everything, is throwing her off. Also, the fact that her twin, Rin, not a fan. Not a fan at all, is searching for independence. So she's almost ditching her. And I do mean ditching her, because if you're avoiding someone's phone calls, you're a jerk and you're definitely ditching them. You're not trying to strive for independence. You're trying to completely cut them off, which I didn't understand at all. Yeah, just not a fan of that, especially your twin. I wouldn't do that to a friend, let alone a twin. But I digress. So you have that situation going on. Rin has always been the more outgoing twin anyway, and the friend maker. So she had a lot to adapt to. Now, Cather is really big into the fan fiction of Simon Snow, who was a character who's very similar, I would say, to Harry Potter, and she writes fan fiction for him. She's actually huge in the fan fiction world, and I just connected to her because my freshman year, I was an introverted student, and I was definitely the fan fiction writer and reader. I actually worked for my computer lab, and that's what I would spend some of my time doing. So I just connected to this so much. I really loved her love interest because he liked her exactly as she was. He really worked to, one, be her friend first, and then two, set her at ease and learned what her triggers were. Does this make you feel uncomfortable? Does this not? Really, really loved it. There's some plot twists in here, some ups and downs. There's some mental health issues that I thought they dealt with very well. They didn't gloss over it, and they dealt with living with it, dealing with it when it gets out of control, and treatment. That was what I really loved. They talked about treatment and living with it. I sped through this, even though it's like 500 pages. Highly recommend it. Again, it was a 5-star for me. Next we have Leap of Faith, which I think was like a 4.5 star for me. At first it was a 3-star. I was really upset because the ending was not even a cliffhanger. It was one of those endings where you're wondering if somebody tore a couple pages out of it. But because I looked around, I found out that her publisher made her take it out, and then she made the actual ending available. So when I was able to put that together, that put this right up to a 4-star. I've never read anything like this in my life. We meet Faith, who grew up with a mom who was a drug addict, who's an alcoholic, never cared for her, made her and her sister fend for themselves, and was just an all-around awful human being who didn't want kids and had no problem letting them know that basically, hey, you two ruined my life. So we open up, we see her, and she's trying to avoid her mom. She's working at a pizza shop, making her own money, paying for her own clothes. Very strong young woman in a tough situation. Well, her mother decides to be a egg donor. Now, I won't even call it an egg donor, because what she did was agree to have the local drug dealer's baby for $10,000. Faith cannot reconcile the thought of another child being raised by her mother, and to go, well, not really raised by her mother, to be not even taken care of in the womb by her mother, and then passed off to a drug dealer and his girlfriend, who have an even worse life, people all over the place, in and out, because she's sort of done surveillance on their home. So she comes up with this crazy idea, starts collecting baby things. And the next thing I know, her mom is in labor, and she steals the baby and runs off to Florida. That's right. She stole the baby and ran off to Florida. I was like, wait, what? What? Yeah. So of course I'm turning all the pages because I want to know what happens. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the problem I had with this book was that some things were just too coincidental. Like, oh, this just happened to fall into place, and it just happened to work because of this reasons. But I was torn because that made for a really feel-good book, and you want to believe that things could happen like that. So it was enjoyable, it was interesting, it was intriguing. I really didn't know what was going to happen one minute to the next because you're dealing with such a crazy, volatile situation. I do recommend it because it was something to definitely read at least once, and it made me interested in Jamie Blair as an author who I had never heard about before. I would definitely read another book by her. So this was a 4-star read for me. Next we have The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. I've heard nothing but great things about this, and so I picked it up, and it was a do not finish. There was nothing wrong with it. She's a wonderful writer. It was in an interesting setting. I mean, it was Alaska and their traditions, but it just felt slow, and I just didn't connect to the characters, so I really didn't care about these little spurts of shorts about all these different characters. Each character gets a different chapter, and they do sort of wind back and connect vaguely, but I wasn't feeling it. I think because I had a book hangover from binging a more exciting series. I will try to give this a try again before the end of the month to see if I could finish it, but this was one of those disappointments for me. If you read it, what did you think? Why did you like it? Was anybody like me and felt it was slow, or am I just the odd man out? Let me know below. Next we have the series that made me get off track. So Obsidian was recommended to me because not only was I a twihard, I was all about Roswell. So if you mix those together, this is seriously this series. And I loved it. I didn't think I was going to, but I loved it. I mean, I loved it, like read it all in a couple hours and had to go to my local library to pick up book 2 and went totally off my reading path because this series, the whole series, was definitely not listed on my A to Z readathon, but I had to know what happened next. I like the lead character, Caddy. She moves to a new town with her mom. They left Florida for West Virginia because they wanted a fresh start. Her dad died of cancer, and their apartment just held too many memories. And so her mom, the nurse, she moves them to this new place. Caddy's really independent. Her mom got really distant after her dad died, which I kind of really hated. She's taking all these shifts and working in all these different places to not be at home. And while Caddy was sort of like a very steady, dependable kid, hitting straight A's, you need your mom, you need a parent, and you need a guide. So I really didn't like that about it, but I understand that it allowed the adventures to happen that were going to happen. I totally get that. I really liked that it was not insta-love between her and Damon, who should have been Demon, because he was freaking horrible. He was so horrible that I had a hard time reconciling them having any kind of a spark. Though you understand why he is later, it was so harsh that the teenage girl in me was cringing, imagining how I would feel on the receiving end of some of the treatment that he was giving her, which tells you how well written it was. I was totally invested in it. Spoiler alert, it's about aliens. This book is a couple of years old, so I'm assuming that most people know that. It was very interesting. I liked her take on the aliens. I liked the world that was set up, and we got to learn a little bit more. There was some serious plot twists that moved the book along, and it ended at a good point, but in a point where I really needed to know more, which was why I picked up Onyx again by Jennifer Armentrout. Was the second book in the Lux series. I really like this one because we see some growth in Caddy. We also see Damon stepping out of the douchey role he was playing. We see him opening up a little bit. We also learn more about the Lux, which is always interesting. We learn more about their deal with the Department of Defense. We see them coming in and the friction, and you're really getting this tension of what it must be like to live under the pressure of knowing that if anybody finds out about you and the Department of Defense knows, they're going to come and take care of that person and you. Also, the Lux have their own rules, which they're breaking by sharing what they are with Caddy. And so there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of uneasiness. And you have some new characters that come in unexpectedly, and there are twists that I didn't expect. She kind of avoids the usual tropes that can happen with teens, and I really appreciated that she did that. I was shocked. I was shocked by what happened in the end. I don't want to be spoilery. This was definitely like a 4.55 star for me. I mean, I really read through it really fast, ate it up. Again, I had to get the third book because I wanted to know what happened. That one I actually don't have the cover for because I got it on my Kindle. The third one be Opal, and I will have it over in this area so you can see what the book was. That was sort of where I hit a wall with this series. There was something about it that wasn't as good as the first two. It was the whole fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. No, I totally said that backwards. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's just things that Caddy should have known better. Damon stepped up in a major way. I was getting Damon vibes. I loved him in Opal. Like, I totally fell for him. He redeemed himself in my eyes. But Caddy just turned it to a person I didn't know, and I really missed the original Caddy. I was sort of like, will the real Caddy please stand up? Because you seem to have forgotten a lot of things. So there were things that felt repetitive, like we'd already fallen into this trap. Why are we doing that again? You can't let a character grow and then have them regress without there being a real reason for that regression, which I didn't feel like we ever got. So I'm actually torn about whether I'm going to continue with this series. Have you read the whole series? What did you think? Did you go further than Opal? Should I go further than Opal, or should I just leave it because I'm going to end up really, really upset about what happens? I'm really not sure. That again was the last book that I've read so far. I'm on track to finish my A to Z readathon. Really excited about that. If you've read any of these books, please let me know. I'll have a link to my Goodreads. I've already done all my written reviews for that. So if you're interested in knowing more about these books, please check those out. I'll also have links to the book if you want to get them yourself. And that was my update. I'm going to go off to film more videos now because I will be away this week doing my very first book signing that is just for me. So I'm nervous, and this is a really good way to work out my nerves. So when I actually do the signing, I can see them all cool and calm. So I will see you in another video with this same outfit. I am definitely binge recording right now. Thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to your comments so we can discuss these books below. Bye guys.